Hi there and welcome to the first tutorial looking at having fun with chemical formulas. Today what we're going to be looking at is looking at atom number, naming of atomic compounds and looking at formulae. This is a very basic process which will lead into more complex processes and formulae later on. So let's run through a few key points. Now in these PowerPoints that we're going to be using, you'll notice that we've got circles which are going to represent individual atoms and then black lines which are going to represent the bonds between them. Now, when we get a compound, what we'll find is that more often than not we will have we'll have two atoms. Now they could be the same atom or they could be different atoms. In this case at the moment we're going to deal with different atoms. Now, generally in this case, you can see from the example that we've got down the bottom, we've got two atoms. We've got sodium and we've got chlorine. Sodium being a metal and chlorine being a non-metal. Now, when we join sodium with chlorine, the chlorine being the non-metal turns into what we call a salt. And generally when we have a salt, we change the name of chlorine to chloride. It has the suffix "ide" on. Now on the next slide we'll see a variety of different nonmetals and how their salts link together. Generally in this course we're going to keep it very simple, so you'll be able to pick up where the ides fit in with the nonmetals. Now also what we can see in the example below is that we've got one sodium atom and we've got one chlorine atom. Now that's very important when we're looking at the formula. And it's going to help us because really when we write a formula, all it does is say how many atoms of each type do we have. And the number of atoms, or the number itself, is written as a subscript below the chemical symbol. It is important that you are aware of the chemical symbols, but in most schools and in most practices, you will have a periodic table which will allow you to work out what the symbol actually is. So let's run through some key terms. So we always have to make sure when we're naming compounds that the metal always goes first. Then after the metal we then place the non-metal, and this is written as a salt. Now as I stated earlier, chlorine turns into chloride. So you notice that the suffix "ide" is put at the end. Bromine, for example, another non-metal in the same group as chlorine, is written as bromide. Sulfur is written as sulfide. Oxygen written as oxide. So we will always place the metal first and then we will follow that up with the salt, which often has the suffix "ide" at the end. Now if we're dealing with more than one salt, sometimes we have to put the number in the name. Now if you've got one atom, you end up putting mon alongside it. If you've got two, then basically you get a di or a bi, or if you've got three, you put tri. An example of this is something like carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide basically has carbon joined to one oxygen. If we took carbon dioxide, you can see we've got carbon joined to two oxygens, and so forth and so on. As I stated before, the number of atoms then literally is then placed as a subscript below the chemical symbol. Okay, it's easier to run through some examples, and if you have this up in front of you, then you will find this useful hopefully as you run through the activities. So let's look at two examples. So here we've got two atoms. We've got sodium in red and we've got bromine in blue, and they're joined together. So they are now a chemical compound. We know that sodium is a metal, so we must always write that first, and that's then followed by the non-metal bromine. But remember, bromine has to be changed to bromide when it's joined in a compound. Now the first thing we're going to look at is what are the number of atoms. So you can see here we've got one sodium atom and we've got one bromine atom. Okay, that's simple, that's half the work done. So when we're naming this, we will state that we put the metal first, sodium, and this is then followed up with the non-metal, bromide. Again, remembering that the bromine has to change to bromide. Now the formula just mirrors what we've written. So where we write sodium, we write the symbol Na. Where we've written bromide, we write the symbol Br. All we need to do to finish off the formula is to put as a subscript next to the symbol the number of atoms of each type. Now in this case, it's 1 sodium with 1 bromine. So as a result, the formula is sodium bromide, sodium NaBr. In this case, we never write the 1 at the bottom. Okay, I hope you understood that. Let's look at example 2. Now, in example 2, we've got calcium, Ca, which is joined with 2 chlorines. Now, don't let this confuse you, just follow the rules as we stated earlier. Let's look at the atom numbers first. We have 1 calcium atom, that's the green circle, and that is joined to 2 chlorine atoms. Now at this stage, don't worry about how they join together. Just practice the process of how many metals, how many non-metals, and then you will find that it will come together. Now when we name the formula, let's put it together. We put the metal first, and this is then followed with the non-metal with its suffix alongside. So the metal in this case is calcium, and the non-metal with its suffix is chlorine, which is changed to chloride. So when we write the formula, we write the metal first. The chemical symbol for calcium is Ca, and this is followed up with the chemical symbol for chloride, which is Cl. All we need to do is make sure that we put 2 as a subscript next to the Cl, because we've got 2 atoms to complete the compound. So the formula is CaCl2. So I hope this has explained how we can name and number our basic formulae. What I would suggest you do now is in the iTunes U course is you try activity 1 and activity 2. This will allow you to practice those skills and then do check the answers. Good luck, and hopefully I will see you again at the next tutorial where we will take this one step further. Thank you for watching.